I'd like to call to order the council meeting of Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Sorese?
Here.
Mr. Roden?
Here.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Steele?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
And now Mr. Fury will lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Father, you guide and govern everything with order and love. Look upon the assembly of our city leaders and fill them with the spirit of your wisdom. May they always act in accordance with your will and their decisions be for the peace and well-being of all. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on August 22nd. Are there any changes or corrections, anyone? None? Then the minutes will be approved as written from that date. Next, we're going to switch up a little bit, and before audience participation, we're going to do the awards presentations. Mayor?
Well, good evening, everyone. So tonight is a special occasion. We have right now 4 officers that we're going to be swearing in. There may be 5, but hold on. So there's definitely going to be 4. And so these are officers that have been hired over the last 8 months to a year that have been working. A couple went through the academy. They've just been a great addition to our police force. And we wanted to have a swearing in to the public tonight so that we can officially introduce them to the community. So we're going to start with Nate Milholm.
Okay.
Anybody with you tonight?
Okay. Thank you, brother.
Brother, you can come on up. You can come stand behind him.
Just saying.
Just keep your speech short with you. All right, if you could, Nate. So raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, Nathaniel M. Milholm,
I, Nathaniel M. Milholm,
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully,
and will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a police officer
as a police officer
of the Twinsburg Police Department
of the Twinsburg Police Department
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
as I shall answer to God.
as I shall answer to God.
All right, Rodney Gist, come on up. Anybody with you tonight?
No.
You by yourself? You got your new family back there. All right, Rodney, raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, Rodney J. Gist,
I, Rodney J. Gist,
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully,
and will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a police officer
as a police officer
of the Twinsburg Police Department
of the Twinsburg Police Department
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my abilities,
as I shall answer to God.
as I shall answer to God.
All right. Mr. Larney Zellner. You can come on up. All right, sir, you ready? Raise your right hand. I, Larney C. Zellner, do hereby solemnly swear
Do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully,
and will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a police officer
as a police officer
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
as I shall answer to God.
So that's the answer we got.
All right, Alex Lobos. Come on up. I know you got family with you, right? Who wants to come up? Someone can come up. I'll come on up. We only do this like once a year, so
No, once a career.
there we go.
Yeah, it's a career, that's true.
Come on up. Your family that always got your back, right? All right, if you could raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Alexander J. Lobos,
I, Alexander J. Labaz,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully,
and will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a police officer
as a police officer
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
as I shall answer to God.
as I shall answer to God.
Chief, you want to say anything? You good?
Well, welcome to your new generation of Twinsburg police officer. Those of us who rolled in here in the 90s, been here for 20-plus years, our time is coming to an end sooner or later. This is the next group that's going to lead this department well into the 21st century. Very, very proud to have them here. A great bunch of guys. They understand the importance of the relationship between the community and the police department. They're out there doing good work already, and I see a bright future for all of them. So congratulations to them.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we have a short recess while we go to the back and celebrate just for 5 minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was an easy one.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We'll resume in a few minutes.
Just thinking this is the cold.
Okay, we're going to resume the council meeting. If we could get the doors closed. Thank you. And we're going to begin with our audience. Almost, yeah. Almost flew there. Audience participation.
Yes. First, we have Bob Hughes.
Good evening, Council, Council President, Mayor. I'm Bob Thews. I live in Meadowood Plan, 2229 Demi Drive. Last Thursday, I was exiting at the Corbett Farms exit, and I watched an ambulance sitting up at the roundabout, and I left. When the city came back on my way back, the ambulance was speeding down the road. There's probably somebody in it, obviously. And I'm just kind of wondering how many accidents there's been at that roundabout. I've heard anywhere, I've heard all kinds of numbers. I've heard anywhere from 15 to 30 have occurred at the roundabout. I'd venture to say there's been probably upwards of $100,000 in personal property damage that's occurred at that roundabout. So who knows what on how much the bodily injury is. So, from that standpoint. We were told by the mayor when it opened that there would be a learning curve for the people of Twinsburg. And of course, kind of all of Northeast Ohio uses Route 91, so I guess we need to teach everyone who uses it. And at last November, at the beginning of all these accidents, since then it doesn't seem to be decreasing. As far as I'm concerned, this is the worst intersection in all of Twinsburg, and maybe in this part of the county. Here's the problem. We have continued to have accidents, yet we really have done nothing to change or improve the situation. So I'm suggesting we consider something. And I don't know what's legitimate, what's not, but something's got to be considered. Either speed bumps, stop signs, different signage, a strong police presence, or really what would probably be the best would be a design change. Do something. Doing as we are now and hoping for improvement is what I call insanity. Too many people are getting hurt financially, if not physically, and just about everyone I've spoken to who has gone through the roundabout about 20 times or more has had a near miss. Prior to this roundabout, the same intersection had 4 accidents in 5 years. So is it safer now? Is this a safer situation? So the way I see it, it's the responsibility of the leaders of the cities to ensure the safety of the people in the city. So do it. Before you build an identical roundabout 700 yards up the road and repeat what is happening here. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Next, we have Tony Kuchar.
Mhm.
Good evening, council members, council
Good evening.
president, Mayor. My name is Tony Kuchar. I live over in the Bridge Middle Court Condo Association, and I just wanted to share just a few thoughts with you before you make your final decision. I have kitchen windows, living room window, and bedroom window that are in line of sight with the proposed deck for rush hour. I never in my wildest dreams we moved in there thought somebody would put a deck in the back of a building where there are dumpsters, but currently that's the proposal here. I'd just like to say this. I've looked at all the improvements they've made, or all the additions they've made to the suggestion of the Planning Commission. They're all improvements, but they're improvements to a bad idea, which will still be a bad idea, even with the improvements. And I would just like to say that if anybody understands and knows the nature of people that like to go out and smoke and drink, I used to smoke 20 years ago, I quit. Don't drink much anymore either. It's very hard to regulate that type of crowd that's going to be out there. And I just believe that this thing is destined to fail eventually. One of the rules will not be adhered to. It's almost impossible to force people to walk off of a place at 10:30 at night, even if they're still finishing their meal. Whether there are going to be cars parked there, back there or not becomes a fire hazard, that'll be up to the city to watch and some of the residents. But I would ask all of you, in your heart, if that was going to be put up in your backyard, 150 feet from your bedroom window, would you want it there? I think there's a better solution, even though it's a more expensive solution. There could be a deck put in the front. There could be a patio or a patio built in the front. I know it's a more costly item to do, but if I was going to sign a lease on a restaurant, I think I would have thought that through before I signed the lease. So I'm just asking you to consider, would you want that in your own backyard? It's not very far away. When people are out behind Goodwill having normal conversations at a normal voice level, most of the times I can understand all the words they're saying. So we're going to be exposed to this till midnight on the weekends, 10:30 on the weekdays. Pretty much means my windows will end up staying closed and I'll be running the air conditioner even when it would be nice to have it open and get some fresh air. So I hope you'll give that some thought. Again, I think there's another solution, a much better solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Sarah Steele.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President, members of council, and members of the audience. My name is Sarah Steele. I own Rush Hour Grill and Hush Supper Club at 10735 Ravenna Road. I wanted to take a moment this evening to thank the members of the Planning Committee, all appointed by council, for their thorough discussion and deliberation before unanimously recommending and granting of my conditional use permit for our outdoor dining area that is on the agenda for this evening. I would also like to thank council in advance for honoring their thoughtful recommendation by passing this resolution tonight. Concerns were raised at the Planning Commission meeting that we took very seriously. I care about all of my customers, and concerns were given by customers of my restaurant and potential customers of my restaurant. We reached out immediately to see if we could reach a common ground with the residents who shared their concerns, and I am happy to say that we were able to come to a resolution that we believe will meet everyone's needs. I would like to thank Kevin McFarland, the Homeowners Association president, for working very closely with me to come to that agreement. I would like to thank the mayor and council for their efforts to keep the community safe by reaching out to the fire chief and asking about any concerns the fire department may have regarding my outdoor dining area and its location. While Chief Morgan alerted the mayor and council of general concerns that he considers in all situations like mine, he's confirmed with me that there are no specific concerns to my location or my pending permit. I'd also like to thank council for doing their due diligence by reaching out to me, visiting my restaurant, and observing the exciting changes that are happening in my new location. Having resolved the issues that were brought to our attention and trusting that council would have reached out to us if there were any additional concerns, we look forward to having a positive outcome to this evening so that we can continue our efforts to bring quality food, quality service, and a new quality ambiance to our existing location, to our new location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kathy Turl Waldron.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Yates. I am here, my name is Kathy Turl Waldron. I live at 1659 Glenwood Drive, Twinsburg. The reason I'm here is for a very heartfelt thank you to our fire department. My parents are both in their 80s and have had some medical issues over the course of the past couple years. And a few weeks ago I had to call the ambulance. Unfortunately, the ambulance has had to come to my parents' home several times over the last few years, but this time was much different. This time it was a true medical emergency that I felt completely out of control in. And when I made that 911 call, I was scared. My mother was scared. My father was scared. And the firemen came in, and it was just such a relief to have them there. And I cannot thank them enough. And I want this community to know that we are so fortunate. You sometimes hear on the TV where they're having to wait or they're not getting the response. I can't imagine being in that position. So I just want to thank this council and administration. They came in, they took control of the situation. They got my mother stable, and like I said, in most situations I feel very, that I can control them or I'm okay. That time I was not. I was very scared. And so like I said, having the fire department there within minutes was just such a relief. And I want this community to know, and I know our police as well are very responsive. We are so fortunate to have that. So once again, thank you to the fire department, and thank you, Council and Mayor, for providing such a great service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Daisy Walker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Maestros, council, and staff. Daisy Walker, Chair, Twinsburg Environmental Commission. What I would like to talk about, and Shannon passes this, it's a flyer around to all council and the mayor and Mr. Maestros, and it's in regards to the Stormwater Phase 2 final rule. And it contains famous asked questions regarding the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System outreach and requirements. And the city is required to implement a public education program and to submit an annual report. And this is one of the implementations that the Environmental Commission has been doing for the past maybe 3-4 years now, not 7 years. It's to help with the public education. And I remember a while back that the city received an honor about maybe 2-3 years ago. And with the help of the Environmental Commission, we worked with the city to achieve that award. And I just want you to take a look at the first page, and it lists like all the famous asked questions. And I know you didn't have time to read it, but these are some of the things that the Environmental Commission, we are working with the engineer, we're working with Public Works, and we're working with Parks and Recs to make sure that everything is done. And if you would take a look on the back side of the page, you'll see a list of educational examples and strategies that the Environmental Commission is working with. On number one, we're working closely with Twinsburg Township and the Village of Reminderville. We're working with Sandy Barbic from Summit County Soil and Water. And the city has used and is using a variety of these strategies. Earth Day continues to be a very effective venue for reaching out to Twinsburg families. Now, on the second page, it lists a summary of our 2017 Earth Day outreach and educational activities that we've done. And the first one is about the rain barrels, and this year we've given out over 40 rain barrels. I would say we've given out a total of over 200 rain barrels for at least 2 to 3 years. And then at our Earth Day, we had Worming Your Way to Better Soil. The mayor's son gave an excellent example of how we can do composting with fruits and vegetables and with the worms. And also we work with the police department regarding a dump box display, disposing of medications properly so it won't go into your toilet. Clean up and dispose of pet waste. We bought maybe 40 or 50 poop emojis, and we gave it out to the little ones to let them know that if they're walking their dog, I mean, that emoji is cute, but when you see it in its real form, please pick it up and dispose of it. Summit County, we have about 145,000 dogs in Summit County, and their poop production on a daily basis is 54 tons. About 3 years ago, I went to a meeting in Silver Lake regarding Silver Lake. Silver Lake was so contaminated with people walking around Silver Lake, not picking up the dog poop, that Silver Lake was contaminated. People couldn't swim, people couldn't fish. All they could do was just look at that water. And we don't want Tinker's Creek to be like that. We have tree giveaways. We've given away 50 to 100 trees back in April with our Earth Day, and with our cleanup, which is October 7th, we're going to give away another 100 fruit trees to the first 100 people that attend. And then on the third page, it lists a brief summary of what we've done for our 2016 Earth Day outreach. We had over 300 visitors. We had environmental themes. We had good nature come in. We had 200 participants that participated in a quiz. We gave away 100 milk plants. We had skits. We had household hazardous waste collection. We had document shredding twice last year. I guess I'm saying all of that with what the Environmental Commission has done. We have submitted a budget. We gave it to Mr. Campbell, and I think he's talking it over with the mayor and council. Some of the projects that we do, we need monies. We're driving our own cars with our own gas. I'm not asking for gas. We're not asking for that. We're asking for money so we can buy these projects so it can be implemented. And so the city of Twinsburg, they can meet the public education and outreach control measures that we should. Because if you didn't need them, that wastewater treatment plant could not exist in the city of Twinsburg. So I'm just asking if you do see our budget, and I think it's only for $600, so we could buy little things to help us out so we can help the city of Twinsburg out. Did you have any questions? I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all.
That's all? Okay. Then we'll move on with council communication. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you, Mr. Sorese. Good evening, everybody. Since our last meeting, we've had a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, and that was canceled. We had a capital improvements meeting, and that was canceled. So Public Works and the compensation committees have not met. So at this time, I have no report tonight. I'll pass it to my colleague. Thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. Stauffer?
Okay, the ARB met on September 7th. They had a number of items on the agenda. There was a home at 2732 Hunters Ridge, single-family home by Ryan Homes. It was approved. A home at 10304 on Lumen Lane, an awning over a patio, was approved as submitted. Very well done by that homeowner. Case 1707-77-2100, Case Parkway, a non-illuminated monument sign for Campo Roofing, that was approved. Excuse me. There was another couple of signs that were approved as noted. One was for Pearl Vision by Adams Signs, Pearl Vision and Eye Care Center at 8934 Darrow Road was approved. There were a number of homes that were also approved, and one is at 10137 Corbett's Lane by Pulte, one at 10098 by Pulte, and another home at 2074 Meadowwood, where that one was just a change in color. There was a home at 3205 by Prestige Homes that was approved as submitted. And that is all that was on the agenda. That's it. That's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fury.
Thank you. The Finance Committee will meet on Tuesday, September 26th at 6 p.m. We've never canceled a Finance meeting ever. I'd like to give a special outreach to Mr. Scafidi to attend that meeting. So, we will have it. Earlier this evening, we talked with Chris Campbell on a fundraiser for two workers from Fallujah Hospital, Carm and Brittany. One needed a kidney and one gave a kidney, and there's a fundraiser on 10/15 at the Twinsburg Community Center to help raise money to support them while they heal from this, from both operations. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we allow the Carmen Brittany fundraiser held at 10:15 at the community center to serve beer and wine between the hours of 11 and 4. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Any discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Thank you. The city has struck a new gas aggregation price with Constellation Energy. The city's plan is offering a 2-year fixed price of $3.29 per MCF. If you were part of the city's plan last year, you will be automatically enrolled in this plan. If you're not, you can opt in by calling 1-800-699-4014, and there's a mailer going out to those who are not current members of this plan. If you want to get in later, if you're going to try to opt in, you should check who you're getting your gas from. It's on your bill on the middle left side, and there's a phone number you can call and find out how long your contract is currently in force and if there's a cancellation charge. It's typically $10 a month for the rest of the contract, but it could be as high as $150. So you really need to check that if you're going to opt into the city's plan. Again, if you were in the city's plan last year, you don't have to do anything, and your new price in October would be $3.29, billed in November. Yes.
I have a question, Mr. Fury. I understand, and I don't know if this is true, that there's 2 different letters from Constellation going out. Although they look similar, they're not.
One would be the
same.
opt-in, one would be the opt-out.
Yeah, I can address that. So
That's what it is.
initially, just for the residents, the original letter, we've always been an opt-out program, meaning you're enrolled in the program and you have to proactively opt out of it. The letter was kind of flipped around saying you needed to opt in. So I believe 2 letters went out just explaining that. Those that did call in were told you don't need to do anything. So just for the residents so they understand, the program, the way it's set up is the way it is in the past. You're enrolled unless you, like I said, proactively opt out. So that was some confusion with some of the letters.
So that was the 2 letters, okay.
So if you're in and you want to get out, there is not a cancellation charge. And if you're out and you want to get in, you can get in at any time. You don't have to get in this month. You can call in February again, but you should check your current gas supplier to find out when your contract expires, because everybody has a fee to get out early or except ours. Except ours. We
But
do
if
not
you were
have
on
a
the
fee.
city program last year, you don't need to do
You
anything.
don't need to do
You're just going to be
anything.
switched over to
Yes.
Constellation.
In October, and it'll bill in November.
Okay. Very good.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roden.
Thank you. The next Environmental Commission meeting will be this Thursday, September 14th at 7 p.m., and it'll be at the engineering office. So for someone like myself, I just keep getting that in my head and I don't come here. Also, a lot of things going on with Environmental Commission. Reworks Household Hazardous Waste Center is at 1201 Graham Road in Stowe. They're going to close next Thursday, September 28th, 2017, and they'll reopen in June of 2018. So if you have hazardous materials or tires, please bring them to the Reworks Center on Thursday, September 28th before they close, and their hours are from 2 to 7 p.m. Simple Recycling is still collecting used and new textiles, jewelry, pots, pans, tools, shoes, etc. Free pickup every Tuesday. If you need more orange bags, please call 866-835-5068. You can come to City Hall and they'll give you a bag. And just a good fact, for the month of August, Simple Recycling made 155 stops and picked up 3,371 pounds of clothing in Twinsburg alone. Also a reminder, the Twinsburg Environmental Commission and Tinkers Creek Watershed Partners, the cleanup day is and the Watershed Festival are all on October 7th. That's a Saturday. It's from 9 a.m. to 12 noon is the cleanup. And that's going to meet at the Twinsburg Community Center, and then the Watershed Festival from 12 to 3 in the afternoon is at Public Works, and everyone is invited. And that's my report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Planning Commission meets on the 18th. None of my other committees have met.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McPherson.
I have nothing to report, except that the Community Relations meeting will be September 21st.
Thank you. Mayor?
All right, thank you. Good evening again, everyone. Just going to talk about a few things that has gone on in the past few weeks. So we wrapped up our Market on the Square. We had 4 dates this year throughout the summer. Hopefully you guys got out and attended it. We start off with 60 vendors. This is typically on a Saturday from usually 9 to 4. We had 60 vendors, we went to 72, we went to 86, and I haven't got the count on the one we had this past weekend. But you know, we continue to try to bring in activity at our square in our downtown area, and this has been a great event that has, you know, got our residents to gather at the center of our town. So we're going to work on bringing it back again next year, and hopefully we'll continue to build on it. Another thing happening in the square was we had the school district had its bicentennial celebration. That was on August 30th. Hopefully you had a chance to attend that. I was thrilled at the amount of turnout we had. We had kids and games running wild. The school district did a great job organizing it. We had teachers, we had administration. It was just fun to see all the activity on Church Street and on our square. So just want to commend them for just a great event that occurred on August 30th. Another thing I've attended recently was the Faith United Methodist Church opened up what they call a gift shop, and what they're doing is they're trying to partner with different organizations to provide for those that can't afford business clothing for interviews and or work, provide a resource for those individuals to have slightly used clothes, you know, get them set up for interviews. You know, guys need a suit or women need a dress, and so they're collecting donations, and they've actually set up a shop at the church. So if you've got clothing that is a business attire that you don't need anymore, I would encourage you to contact Faith United Methodist. That's the church right there on Post Road, kind of across the street from the water tower. But they're doing a lot to try to help you know, those in need that, you know, may not be able to afford, you know, as they're trying to seek work and find a job and get interviews, you know, the right attire to really make themselves successful in landing that job. So it was great attending that and hearing their vision for that ministry that they started. I also attended the Academy Kickoff at the high school. It's another program. Norman Potter has been the lead on this with the school, but the school is taking measures to partner with businesses and universities. Case Western is involved, just to really give our students here in Twinsburg a little taste of manufacturing world, of the research world, of different areas of the workforce that they may not get exposed to while they're in high school. So it's something that's growing, I think, bigger than what they expected, and just want to commend them because I think I've got 2 kids in college and 1 still in the high school, but I think it's a great resource for our kids to be able to experience the things that these kids are going to experience. I also attended there was a tri-chamber lunch with Dave Joyce that spoke. The chambers always do a great job putting this event on. It's good to hear our Representative Joyce speak, and you know, it was a good event that happened on August 31st. Last week I was also able to go down, we had a few people from the city that attended the CDFA Financing Roundtable. So that's the Council of Development Finance. So it's an organization that helps spur financing opportunities and put deals together for municipalities for any kind of redevelopment that may go on. It encourages public-private partnerships, those kind of things. So as we move forward with trying to do some redevelopment, revitalizing our downtown area, we're trying to get up to speed on different ways we can make this project happen. And it was a fascinating day, you know, hearing about certain projects going around the country. You know, Baltimore had Under Armour buy 45 acres of land right on the Inner Harbor, and they're putting $8 billion and creating about 50,000 new jobs right there on the harbor in Baltimore. So just some really cool things that are happening across the country that this organization is helping to promote. But it was a learning day for us. And then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about, you know, when I took office, we started organizing communication meetings with our department heads. Mark Gutowski's been kind of a point person on that. And one thing we're trying to do is get a community calendar going to try to pull in events from the school district, from the city, from could be businesses around town, just so that the residents maybe have one source of a calendar they can go to and find out kind of what's going on in Twinsburg. So as we develop that, Mark's made some good progress with it. We'll try to start sharing more information and hopefully having something to roll out here in the next few months. Lastly, we're just working through a lot of our budget process. We've had hearings with department heads. We were attempting to work with, start our capital improvement board tonight, but we didn't have a quorum. But I just want to thank the department heads because, we're in some challenging times with our budget. We're trying to really lean up our operations as well as our capital spending. When we lost a quarter percent tax, it impacted us, and so we're having just to make some adjustments this year. But department heads are working, well with myself and with council to try to make those adjustments. And that's all I have this evening. We have some department head reports. All right. I know Larry, you want to start?
Good evening. Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things to bring everybody up to date. Cornerstone Business Park still continues to be an active project for us, and we're trying to promote it. We'll be coordinating a tour of Cornerstone Business Park for Team Neo and the Greater Akron Chamber to familiarize them with the existing businesses, the remaining vacant available properties, and to coordinate promotion of the site by all entities, all parties. The tour is tentatively scheduled for September 20th, and I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to get some additional assistance from Team Neo in the Chamber to help us more broadly circulate information about the park. Also, with regard to Cornerstone Business Park and the Independence Boulevard extension, we've cleared the Jobs and Commerce grant from ODOT for reimbursement by the state. This reimbursement is $178,000, and it's the first of 2 reimbursements. The next reimbursement is from the Development Service Agency under the 629 Roadway Improvement Fund. That is going to be paid here very soon, and that's $310,000 for that one. So that continues to move forward. With regard to the Twinsburg Old School, the asbestos mitigation and deconstruction proposal, bids for asbestos mitigation and deconstruction have been advertised. They were advertised on September 7th and September 14th. There'll be a pre-bid meeting scheduled for September 18th. That's next Monday here at City Hall. Bids will be due and opened on September 29th. And then once we have the bids, we'll have hard numbers to determine our path forward. If the project is implemented at that time, the project will be completed by January 31st. And the only thing remaining would be permanent seeding of the site. So the site would be cleared and permanent seeding would actually occur in April. As you're aware, probably the city received a Connecting Communities grant to identify ways to connect some of the trails, particularly to the central area. That project has been through the consultant selection phase. That's been completed. The consultant will be City Architecture with a sub-consultant, WSP. WSP was formerly Parkins Brinkerhoff. The project scope of services has been reviewed, and we've revised and set that. Basically, it's set now in terms of the scope. The next thing to occur will be stakeholder meetings. They'll be scheduled with various interested parties and the administration in the next coming few months. This project is anticipated to take about 8 months to complete, and council will be involved in both presentations, and there'll be a steering committee established, and then I believe that the steering committee will include a representative of council. Pardon me, just recovering from cold still. The goal of this effort is to determine cost-effective trail connections between the existing trail system both between the trails themselves and to connect those trails to central Twinsburg and the various points or destinations along that pathway, including things like the school, the library, etc. The Twinsburg Committee Improvement Corporation remains active. We're involved in the process of encouraging investment in central Twinsburg and are working diligently on property acquisition. Hopefully we'll hear some more about that at the next meeting. The next meeting of the CIC will be on September 20th. It'll be at the Center on the Square. From Community Development and Planning, there are two ordinances, 86-2017, the conditional use permit for SNB Enterprises that was recommended by Council on 87, and it would be approved with an MOU between the Ridge Court Commons and the proponent. Ordinance 90-2017, a revenue sharing agreement between the Twinsburg School District and the City of Twinsburg, addresses our responsibility to provide compensation to the school district for property tax abatement for various community reinvestment area agreements and enterprise zone agreements. And that's my report for tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Chris, you want to come up?
Good evening, Council. Well, the Service Department crew is back on the hydrant painting. We had to actually rebuild the equipment that we used to strip those hydrants. Actually, we looked at having that rebuilt for about $4,000, and our fleet maintenance crew did it for less than $1,000. So, did a good job there. We have about 295 hydrants that we did once we got back up and running. It's the red color now. I think most people like that a little bit better. So we're at just a little over 1,000 hydrants. So we're going to work through. Hopefully, we're going to finish that program up this year. And then if we have any of the green ones that need, that have a little bit of wear, we may go ahead and do those. And over time, we'll get everything switched over to the reds. So that program's gone real well. The sidewalk leveling program, we did well. So far, we've done 68 locations. For a total of 554 feet of sidewalk level. So that program's moving along pretty good. We actually worked in a project that we didn't originally have scheduled, and that was about 395 feet of driveway aprons in the Hickory Hills, Shadywood area. There was an engineering project that went through there and affected those aprons, and a portion of those aprons had shifted. So we were able to go in there with that equipment and get things leveled again. So that was a pretty good program for us. So we've got that completed as well. Since I last reported branch chipping, we went through the July and August program. For those rounds, we were a little over 1,300 stops. We're just finishing up this September chipping, so I think that's going to finish up probably tomorrow. The next collection will be Monday, October 2nd, and then we will probably have one in November then. So we had that request, I think, last year to continue with that. Other than that, hopefully you've noticed we added a couple new design signs, Glen Meadow Park and the Moraine Park. We've installed new signs with stone around the newly designed signs. We've got those. We'd like to use that as our standard now, and as we make our way through the park system, when we're replacing signs, use that type of sign. I think they look pretty good. And we also put up a new sign at the community gardens, and kind of cleared that area out, made it a little more presentable. So those were some good projects for us. The normal work, storm system checks and what have you, we've been moving through. Storm systems have, the areas we checked this year have been great, very little debris, and so we haven't had any issues in those. We had a storm system project we just completed behind Glenwood Drive and Westwood. That went real well. Residents there were experiencing a little bit of not flooding, but water backing up on their property. So that should help that. And again, roadway maintenance, animal control, parks maintenance, we're continuing with all of that. Also wanted to let you know that it's coming up quick, is the leaves, we'll be picking those up beginning October the 16th, which is a Monday. Run that through the end of the year. And that's all I have for tonight.
I was contacted by the Cease family, and they wanted to especially thank you for the work that you did in putting that together, clearing that back, and putting the flowers in. It looks fantastic, and it's really a nice tribute. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
And Chris, I just want to say, and I'm sorry I didn't say this earlier, but thank you to your crews for 2 of those park signs are the parks in my ward, and they do look very nice. The residents called me; they were very appreciative of that, as well as the drainage swale. I received the pictures that you sent me of that. I was there. We walked it prior to, and I see what it looks like now, and they did do a great job, and I'm sure that resident's very happy, and I'll hear from him as well. But thank you to the crew, and thank you for you to getting them out there.
They're very happy to do that.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks,
Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris,
Oh,
thank you for doing the driveways. They look really great.
Oh, good.
And I have a question. I don't know whether I need to ask you or Derek, or maybe both of you. I had a gentleman ask me if there's some way to get composting or something done at the city gardens so that the gardeners could get something to enrich the soil. I don't know whether we could just dump off leaves and let the leaves.
I got plenty in my backyard. My son's a little crazy
I
about
will
composting stuff.
I don't know.
I'll look into that. Usually if you compost leaves, there's a whole, a way of doing that.
The city looked into that in depth probably 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
There
My
was a
son
lot
actually
involved with
researched that, and there's a whole
There's a
whole way of drainage and different things that's got, from an environmental standpoint, has to be put in place in terms of just piling leaves and doing stuff to them. So I know it's a little more challenging than just building some bins.
Yeah.
You need a big area for that too, because they smell.
Yeah.
They smell.
Yeah,
Once
the
they
Environmental
start to
Commission
rot
did
and you
add
turn
some
those
type of
things,
thing
the neighborhood will not be happy with the scent that they let off.
Well, I think I'm upwind, so.
Sounds like another
But,
War Gold project.
we take our branches and our leaves to some of the area landscape, and we'll get, in return, we'll get topsoil or mulch. I can see if they have a product that we could incorporate into the soil, maybe we can get.
Yeah, he was he approached me, he said, is there some way we can get something we could work in, the guys, the gardeners could work in?
Right, we don't really amend the soil.
Right.
But not to say that we couldn't, so I'll look into that and see.
I met with several individuals that actively garden every year at the community garden, and we had a meeting in my office, and we just talked about how we prepare the soil, some of the processes we do that would make it easier for them. So come March, I think I'd mentioned this to Chris, we're going to meet with them again, because I don't think there's anything maybe different we need to do. It just may be a timing thing and something that we can help them to make it a little easier, because once we go through it, if there's some little bit of dry time, it creates some ridges, and it becomes difficult for them to prepare the soil, but I think we'll be able to work through it.
Yeah, we'll look for something.
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you. Anyone else? Mayor?
Chief, are you wanting?
Don't fight.
Either one.
Good evening. During the month of August, the fire department responded to 219 calls for service. That brings us up to a total of 1,842 for the year, which is about 15% ahead of where we were last year at this time. Just one kind of out of the ordinary event that I thought I would bring to your attention. On August 20th, just after midnight, we went over to Macedonia, actually into Sagamore Township, and assisted with the rescue of a four-wheeler rider that drove over a ledge into one of the ravines over there. So we sent our heavy rescue truck and 3 of our personnel over to assist with extricating that person using some rope rescue systems and their skills to help with that. Beyond that, the rest of the calls have been the standard fire alarms, car accidents, and EMS calls. For fire prevention, during the course of the month, we completed 147 inspections. And we also worked on 3 different fire investigations. In the public education realm, we had 4.5 hours of contact with 60 different individuals teaching fire extinguisher training and CPR. And as a department, we completed 81 different training classes totaling almost 230 hours of time for all our personnel. By way of other points of interest, the weather warning system was tested on September 2nd, and the system, all the sirens worked properly. One update you on the hydrant flushing process. You probably noticed that the signs that are hanging in different areas say May to June. And we didn't meet that window. In fact, we still have about 100 left to do. Just the busyness of our crews and kind of some unagreeable weather during June, and then we got into Twins Day season and everything else. So we're down to almost the end. So we should be finished with hydrant flushing here in hopefully the next week or so. The exhaust evacuation system that the city's purchased for the Fire Station 1 has been installed and completed. So if you care to come over and take a look at that, it is operating. And in case you can't make a special trip, I just want to remind everyone that on October 11th, we'll be having our annual fire department open house, Wednesday, October the 11th. So I believe that'll run from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So mark that on your calendars and come visit. We'd like to show off our station, our equipment, and our people. So that's my report for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, earlier this evening, Sarah Steele mentioned that she had contacted you regarding safety factors for the back of the.
Yes.
Can you just comment on whether you feel it's?
Certainly.
Are there any
Certainly.
safety issues regarding the back of the building?
Okay. Generally speaking, yes, there are safety concerns around the backs of the buildings and many of our plazas. And ultimately it comes down to access for our apparatus and potential parking congestion. One of the things we frequently run into is, for example, dumpsters not being put in the nice little cubby hole that was built for them, but being put where it's convenient for the garbage trucks to get to them, which is usually not in the same place. And then just making sure, in whatever conditions, no one's parking in front of fire hydrants, fire department connections. There's always a concern about smoking and location of dumpsters and the potential for fire hazards. I talked to Sarah just, was it last night or the night before, on the phone? And she asked me some of those questions. And the questions that I had sent to the mayor via email, or they're not questions, but talking points, and I believe he forwarded to council, were just that. Those are things that we want to look at and consider. And it's a fairly consistent issue because we can address that with the property owner, the renter, and they understand those concerns and they try to abide with them, but then it's their customers, or then it's the delivery truck guy, or the garbage truck guy. So there's a lot of dynamics there, just trying to make sure we maintain access, keep things safe, and just try to keep the dialogue going, and making sure that if bad habits start, we can try to redirect them sooner rather than later before a problem happens. So there were no specific safety concerns about that situation. The question that arose, and I think started some of this dialogue, was it was, I believe, mentioned somewhere, and it's not firsthand, this is secondhand knowledge to me, that the fire department said they couldn't do a patio in the front of the building. And through official means, we never made that statement. I think it might have been something that maybe Sarah heard from the property owners, might have relayed that to her. We would allow a patio in the front of the building. It would necessitate rerouting the fire lane, the driveway, probably moving some parking lot islands out there, and it gets into expense. So that was what kind of drove the dialogue and was the impetus for that memo to the mayor. And nothing specific about what Sarah's trying to do at rush hour. It's just general concerns. And we run into those, again, in the strip areas and even in some of the businesses, you know. Best intentions when they plan their processes, but then when it really goes into working, people relocate things, they get careless, people that, you know, employees that don't care, customers that don't care, that, you know, those are all things that end up being a hazard we have to be concerned about.
I have a quick question. There has to be a fire lane maintained in the front of the building.
Yes.
Does there have to be a fire lane, a designated fire lane in the back of a building as well?
We can require the landowners to designate it. It's generally understood that it needs to be, access needs to be maintained. If we get into have a lot of issues, we can have them paint a lot of stripes, we can have them put up signs. If you've been by the Plaza lately, you can see the stripes in the front are pretty faded and worn, and that becomes a cost to the landowner. So you know, we try to encourage them as much as we can without being a hindrance to their operation.
So the property owner has to have that, but
Yeah,
there's no
that'd be
code that says
ultimately
they
on
have to have it in the front
property
and the
owner
back.
that we would require, ultimately it's their responsibility.
And that's true with every building? You know, every building in the city?
It depends on the type of construction and the type of occupancy and ultimately the plans that were approved. The fire code is known as a maintenance code. So ultimately, we require business to maintain what was approved to be built. It's built by the building code and okayed by the building department, frequently with our approval or our suggestions. But after that, after it's approved by building code and zoning codes and things of that nature, then it becomes an issue where the fire department helps maintain those codes. So not all businesses are required to have drives all the way around. But if it was planned that way and designed that way, then we can make them maintain it. Does that make sense?
I think
Okay.
I understand.
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
I have two things. So the yellow lines that are for the fire lane, that's the property owner's responsibility, and then the building department would enforce it?
No, that would be the property owner's responsibility to maintain
Right.
the markings or the signage necessary to maintain the.
So does the building department then enforce it when they are out and about, or like some
No,
plazas
again,
don't
that
even
would be
have
a
anything?
maintenance code issue. The fire department would try to work with the property owner.
Oh,
to
okay. And I
maintain.
had one thing off this subject, but when Mrs. Waldron was talking about the services provided by the ambulance, I understand Garfield Heights, when their EMT is dispatched for any cardiac arrest, that the Cleveland Clinic sends out a cardiac arrest vehicle right away at the same time, so they arrive at the scene at the same time. And I don't think that we have that, but it would seem like with the Cleveland Clinic being right here, we should.
Yeah, they have a special unit. I don't know that it necessarily gets dispatched to all their cardiac calls, because I believe if I'm recollecting the program you're talking about, Cleveland Clinic has one unit for Northeast Ohio, maybe two. So I'm sure they don't make it to all of Garfield Heights' calls, but it may be
He did a good presentation.
as available basis.
Oh, okay.
And they do not currently provide that service to this area of their community, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. All right, Chief Noga?
Good evening. During the month of August, the City of Twinsburg Communications Center generated 2,569 calls for service among the Twinsburg Police and Fire Departments and the Reminderville Police and Fire Departments. The total calls for the year is 19,602. Twinsburg police officers arrested or cited 128 suspects into court on 169 different counts. Officers issued 297 written warnings and 58 parking sites. Officers investigated 45 traffic crashes, of which 5 were injury crashes, 12 were on private property, and unfortunately 1 was fatal. The fatal crash occurred on August 14th, coming into the square on Ravenna Road. The driver missed the curve and hit a telephone pole, passed away about 2 weeks later. We don't have any results from the medical examiner yet as to what caused the person to miss the turn. As many of you know, in addition to the police uniform I wear the khaki of the Boy Scouts of America. I'm an assistant scoutmaster for Troop 213 up at the Masonic Lodge. I want to invite you and make people aware that this Saturday on the square, we're having a Scouting in Twinsburg event from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. This is an event with not only the Boy Scouts, but the Girl Scouts as well, and the venturing crew that's located at the VFW. We're doing this as a recruiting event to try to draw up some interest. My troop and as well as Troop 223 at the Congregational Church, several of us will be sleeping out in the square on Friday night, so you can stop by. I have my little tent propped up, and hopefully I'll get a good night's sleep out there. We'll have events for so that kids can see what scouting is all about, from kindergarten on up to 6th, 7th grade. So if you know anybody that might be interested, please let them know. And again, please stop by. You can see the how vibrant the scouting community is in Twinsburg. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Finally, Mrs. House.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to update you on a couple things. As you know, this month, the continuing disclosure statement must be completed and done by September 30th. And the continued disclosure statement is for the purpose of investors who are interested in municipal bonds and they want to see the strength of the community. This document allows them to get inside of how the operations and financial stability for our city. So that will be done on September 30th and will be posted once it's certified and everything. I'll keep you posted on that, as well as we still have not heard anything from the auditor of state regarding the release of the 2016 audit, but of course I will let you know once that becomes available. We have received our first half advance for our income tax, and we are up by 7%, and for the year by 4%. I will give a full report once we get the final disbursement for this month. And also to let you know, as Sam did mention, we will have a finance committee meeting, I'm sorry, Mr. Fury.
But he was invited.
I'm sorry.
I was cordially invited.
Because we're not going to cancel.
We'll be having a finance committee meeting scheduled for next week, or the 14th actually, starts the 14th.
Okay.
And that is all I have to report.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, legislation. Resolution 86.
A resolution granting a conditional use permit to SNB Enterprises LLC located at 10735 Ravenna Road, Suite 2, Twinsburg, Ohio, as recommended by the Planning Commission after public hearing on August 7th, 2017.
Okay, this resolution, we passed on the last meeting to give the lawyers for the two sides to get together, and they've come up with an agreement. Mr. Fury is going to introduce that.
So I'll second the resolution.
There's been no motion.
There was
Okay.
There's no motion.
Okay.
There was no motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 86, 2017. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Okay. Yes, the two parties had an agreement that, and the law director has asked and the parties asked actually, that be incorporated into the requirements that the Planning Commission originally put on, which were no TV, no live music, only one speaker on the patio facing towards the building, and that they had to get an additional landscaping plan approved. The agreement that we're adding is that the rush hour must close off all access to the deck like Sunday or Thursday at 10:30. Rush hour must close off all access to the deck Friday and Saturday by 12. Rush hour agrees to construct an 8-foot-high soundproof wall as set forth in paragraph C of the agreement. The deck cannot be opened before 9 a.m. Speakers are for ambience only and not used for live broadcast or entertainment or sporting events. And a memo of understanding would be incorporated into the conditional use permit granted by the city, therefore enforced by the terms and conditions of the permit. So I would like to make a motion that City Council incorporates the 6 points of agreement and the agreement entered into by the two parties to be part of Resolution 86, 2017. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Maestros, are you okay with that, or do you need that reworded?
I think the motion, I think that just from a clarification standpoint, the motion should be to just incorporate the MOU into the conditional use permit, because you mentioned one speaker, and I don't think that ultimately one speaker
One
might not be
speaker
the
was the
answer.
original condition from
Right.
the Planning Commission.
This might change that, so I don't want to get boxed into that the applicant's only allowed one speaker, because I think
Well, that
this
was
one-
already part of the original agreement, but
Right,
I would like to amend the motion to say that we would just simply like to add the memo of understanding to 86, 2017.
Correct.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
I'm not voting on this for obvious reasons.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes. So the motion passes 6-0. Now, do I need to change my motion to adopt the amended?
Yes, the motion to amend is passed, so now you have to make a motion to approve the amended.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the amended Resolution 86, 2017. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I just want to say that, this has been a long discussion prior to our meeting 3 weeks ago. And, I've had conversations with Kevin McFarland of the Homeowners Association, as well as Sarah Steele from Rush Hour. And, there were a lot of disagreements and a lot of going back and forth. And I really got to hand it to the Homeowners Association as well as Sarah for working together to try to come up with an agreement that everybody could live with. I'm sure if everybody had their way, Sarah would have had her deck out there already with no restrictions, and the homeowner association would have their property with no deck in their backyard. But seeing as the way that these folks came together, and again, I've had many discussions with basically both of them. I've heard from residents, I've heard from the legal counsel. So I just want to really hand it to them, and I'm glad that they were able to come to this agreement and hope that this is a good ending and that everybody can abide by what's in these rules and regulations that are in this legislation or in this memorandum of understanding here tonight, and that everybody can get along and work out well, because if not, I know it's going to be a nightmare, and I don't think that the homeowner association wants that, and I know I've talked to Sarah, and I know she doesn't want that either. So I just want to hand it to both of them, and I'm glad we're at this point, and that council could go ahead and approve a conditional use that will be workable with everybody. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
I'm not voting.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance, amended ordinance 86, 2017 passes 6-0. Ordinance 87.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance of the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017.
This is the second reading on this ordinance. Ordinance 89.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 108, 2016, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2017.
And that's the second reading also on that ordinance. Now, number 90. First, I'd like to make a motion to amend number 90 to be a resolution 90, 2017. Is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion?
This is just to clear up a typographical error.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
That motion passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 90, 2017. Is there a second?
I need to read it first.
What?
I need to read it first.
Oh, okay.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Twinsburg City School District Board of Education to provide for the sharing of certain income tax revenues generated by businesses which are the beneficiaries of the property tax abatement agreements.
Okay. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 90, 2017. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Discussion?
This has been about a year that I know that the mayor and the law director and others have been working on this. I feel it's a very fair agreement. I like the flat percentage. I think it's in the best interest of the city to move forward with this.
It was a lengthy process, but we worked through it with the school board, and yeah, I think this is fair for both sides, and hopefully will help us continue to attract businesses to Twinsburg and not do any financial harm to our school district.
Anyone else? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Resolution 90, 2017 passes 7-0. Unfinished business, which I skipped at our last meeting.
So I got a lot to
Wait,
talk
Mayor?
about.
Mr. Scafidi.
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Stoffer.
I have nothing.
Thank you.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mr. Vogt.
I just want to congratulate the police officers that we swore in today, and special place for Larney. He taught my son how to swim, so it's just when he was younger, my son was younger, so it's a lot of good memories with Larney. So I congratulate him and his family, and he's expecting a third, so it's pretty exciting. And that's it for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
I'd like to congratulate the 4 new officers. They're going into a job that is ever-changing and is getting tougher and tougher to do. I wish them a long, safe career. And I like the, I managed to play really well up at the golf course the other day, and I want to say that it was my game, but I think it was possibly, the course was in pretty decent shape up there. The grass was green, the greens were flat, and the ball fell in the hole when I hit it towards the hole. So I'm happy that the golf course is getting in better shape.
Thank
That's
you. Ms. McFerrin.
I'll add congratulations to the new police officers and congratulations to all the kids back to school.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, just lastly, it's it's always exciting to swear in new officers. This younger generation that we've brought into our force, I think are really going to be leaders in the future. It's a great group of guys. If you see Nate Milhone, I mean, he drives around, and every time you see kids, he jumps out of his car and he's building that bond with the younger generation. So it's great to see them out doing that. And you know, we had someone tonight thank our fire department, and so when we look at the police and fire and we reflect on yesterday, 9/11, you know, there was 3,000 lives lost in that event that hit our country. Just, you know, this is a great way to kind of celebrate, you know, a tragic event that happened in our history, and the safety forces and how they came out to respond to that. So just always want to remember that, and congratulate the new officers. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Mr. Maceros? Ms.
Nothing,
House?
thank you.
Pardon? Nothing? Shannon?
No, thank you.
Nothing? At that point, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you for coming.